The Pokemon video game franchise has gone down in history as one of the biggest franchises of all time. Virtually anybody can recognize notable characters like Pikachu. I mean, who doesn't know who Pikachu is? Or Charizard. As a kid, I was an absolute Pokemon fanatic. I spent hundreds of hours collecting Pokemon from Generation 1, maxing them out, learning all of their moves, and I could tell you so many things about the game, where all the secret items were, where all the hacks are. I can tell you where to get missing number 1, however you say that. Pokemon has built a reputation for being a family-friendly game that's great for kids to enjoy, but despite that, there's actually a surprising amount of dark material inside of Pokemon games. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the top 10 creepiest Pokemon of all time. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because if you do not, I will grow a beard. And we don't want me to have a beard, so go ahead and subscribe. Let's get started. Number 10, Kamala. Look, we all love a little sleep, right? I mean, a little nap where you get to lay down, chill for a couple of hours. That's great, right? But what about when it's your entire life? Pokemon Sun tells us about Kamala. It is born asleep and it dies asleep. All its movements are apparently no more than the results of it tossing and turning in its dreams. This is not just any sleeping beauty. Literally spends its entire life sleeping. I feel like it would make great friends with Snorlax, but I don't know if you can make friends in your sleep. Hey, you want to be friends? Oh yeah, sure. The saddest part of all of this is that this is such a cute Pokemon, and you really don't want it to have to miss out on all of this, and you almost feel bad making it fight because it doesn't even realize what it's doing. It's sleeping through all of that. You kind of feel like you're taking advantage of it. It's not necessarily a creepy Pokemon, but this is an extremely sad story of a Pokemon who spends his whole life, dies, without even realizing what's happening. Number 9, Spoink. Now, at first glance, Spoink is a very cute Pokemon with a long twisty tail. It looks great, it looks highly energetic, it's always bouncing around. But why is it always bouncing around? Well, Pokemon Ruby tells us Spoink bounces around on his tail. The shock of his bouncing makes his heart pump. As a result, this Pokemon cannot afford to stop bouncing. If it stops, its heart will stop. Now, that gets pretty dark quick. A Pokemon that if it stops moving, literally dies. And it gets even darker when you realize this Pokemon is 67.5 pounds. You're talking about a dog food bag plus more bouncing around all day long. Imagine if you had to carry that around and toss it all day long, no breaks. We just talked about Kamala, who literally sleeps all day long. This is a Pokemon who cannot sleep at all unless somehow it trains itself to jump in its sleep. That's a pretty depressing life story. Your entire life jumping around, no sleep, no breaks. Number 8, Catrin. Now, at first glance, Catrin just looks like someone decided to make a scarecrow and ran out of hay.
Look at this dude.
I mean, he looks pretty chill. I'm not gonna say he's the most ingenious design of all time, but he doesn't look like anybody particularly bad. But Pokemon Sapphire tells us if a traveler is going through a desert in the thick of the night, Catrin will follow in a ragtag group. The Pokemon are biding time, waiting for the traveler to tire and become incapable of moving. So, he's not the worst Pokemon ever. He won't openly attack you, but it's also kind of creepy having an oversized vegetable sitting around waiting for you to die. How is this thing supposed to eat you? It's like 3 feet tall. This is a pretty creepy Pokemon, literally just waiting for you to give up the ghost. Well, you're not gonna get this ranger right here, Catrin. Number 7, Yveltal. I hope I said that right. Yveltal has a pretty awesome design. I mean, just check him out. He spells epicness all over his epic body. Just check this guy out. But when you realize just the dark story of what happens with Yveltal, Pokemon Y tells us when its life comes to an end, it absorbs the life energy of every living thing and turns into a cocoon once more. So basically, Yveltal is the Pokemon version of Noah's Flood. Its lifespan is 1,000 years, which means every 1,000 years, literally everything dies and has to start over. And if you happen to be living at the end of that 1,000 years, well, I'm sorry for you, man. It's over. The lucky thing is Yveltal doesn't really suffer because she just turns into a cocoon and starts all over again. He gets the long end of the straw. The rest of us, well, too bad for us. Number 6, Yamask. Now, Yamask looks kind of like, you know, a pretty chill guy. He just floats around carrying this little trinket, it looks like, until you realize that it's not a trinket he's carrying around. Pokemon Black tells us each of them carries a mask that used to be its face when it was a human. Sometimes they look at it and cry. So you're talking about somebody that died and came back as this light floating Pokemon carrying its former face around. Now that's a pretty disturbing thought. Pokemon Shield tells us it rambles through ruins searching for someone who knows its face. So that means if it confronts you, it probably is hoping that you recognize it and will be able to tell who it is. So you might want to take a good look. Now that's a pretty creepy thought. It even gets creepier when you realize that its evolving form, Kofagrigus, literally mummifies people that get too close to it. Number 5, Sandygas. When I first saw Sandygas, I literally just thought, that's it? Are you literally running out of ideas? You literally create a living sandcastle. Look at that thing. That looks like a 9-year-old kid whose mom told him to get off of Fortnite. Ultra Moon tells us if you build sand mounds when you're playing, destroy them before you go home, or they may get possessed and become Sandygas. So that leaves the question, in the Pokemon world, what can you leave? It seems like almost anything can become possessed and become a Pokemon. I feel like wherever you go, you've got to destroy everything behind you. Kind of a dark world where you kind of have to look over your shoulder everywhere you go, hoping something's not possessed and about to try to kill you. Sandygas' evolved form Palisand in Pokemon Moon is described as buried beneath the castle are masses of dried up bones from those whose vitality it has drained. We're talking about a pretty creepy Pokemon. Apparently in the Aloha region, it's a challenge of courage to put your hand into the mouth of a Sandygas. Why? Because whenever you do, there's a risk that this Sandygas will literally take control of your body. This is a pretty dark, evil creature. So just remember, kids, next time you build a sandcastle, just break it down once you're done and pull the shovel out of his head, okay? Number 4. Phantom. Okay, so you thought Sandygas was kind of a cheesy design. This one we're looking at now is literally a stump of wood that gets possessed. This is like the new Pokemon design. Maybe I'm not the only one who gets frustrated with the Pokemon designs don't seem as good lately. I think the new design tactic is, let's just take something completely normal and just make it possessed, and that will be the new Pokemon. Phantom is pretty creepy. Pokemon Sun tells us these Pokemon are stumps possessed by the spirits of children who died in the forest. Their cries sound like eerie screams. So when you're carrying a Phantom around, you basically have children's souls inside of your Pokeball. Is that not creepy enough? I mean, I'm starting to get some type of Dark Souls vibe here, just carrying souls around with you wherever you go. That is not a pleasant thought. You're fighting with children's souls. I'll just drop it at that. Number 3, Driffloon. Look, if Phantom wasn't creepy enough, it gets a whole lot worse from there. Now, Driffloon just looks like a nice chill balloon. It's literally 2.6 pounds and just floats around in the air until you realize that this is basically a soul chest. The bigger it is, beware, the more souls it has. Ultra Sun tells us its round body is stuffed with souls and expands each time it leads someone away. So that literally means that as you're training this Pokemon and helping it get stronger and bigger, you're helping it collect more souls and become larger. Heart Gold tells us it is whispered that any child who mistakes Driffloon for a balloon and holds on to it could wind up missing. So while you're carrying this nice cuddly little balloon, it's full of the souls of innocent children. That is not a pleasant thought at all, and it gets even creepier when Pokemon Moon tells us if for some reason its body bursts, its souls spill out with a screaming sound. I think I'll just steer clear of Driffloon and let someone else deal with all of these souls of children. I don't want to have that on my hands. Number 2 is Mimikyu. Just taking a quick look at Mimikyu, it looks like a cute, cuddly, innocent, big wannabe who has a crayon and a horrible sense of art style. But when you take a closer look, you realize that this Pikachu wannabe is a dark, dangerous serial killer. Ultra Moon tells us a gust of wind revealed what hides under this Pokemon's rag to a passing trainer who went home and died painfully that very night. But it doesn't stop there. This little terrorist has a whole list of people that it has killed after they saw what it really looks like. Which makes me wonder, what does this thing really look like underneath the cloth? Do we want to know? And if I don't want to know, I don't know if I want this thing sitting around inside of one of my Pokeballs. But I don't know if I want it running on the loose either, because this thing sounds incredibly dangerous. Mimikyu, I feel like you're too dangerous to even exist. Number 1. Probably the creepiest Pokemon in all of Pokemon history, you may have saw this one coming, is Bannette. Now, Bannette is literally a stuffed doll. But before I get into this, I have to ask, what loving parent would give their child this? Look at this. You typically give kids cute, cuddly toys. Why would you give them this? This is literally a 3-foot, 27-pound doll. You're gonna give this to your children? It's going to give them nightmares even before, yes, of course you guessed, it becomes possessed. Ultra Sun tells us it's a stuffed toy that was thrown away and became possessed, ever searching for the one who threw it away so it can exact its revenge. So basically we have Lotso inside of Pokemon, but a whole lot darker. I feel like the only kid who could deal with a tool like this would be Sid from Toy Story. Any other kid would not be able to handle anything this dark and dangerous. And you find out this doll is basically a straight up voodoo doll when Ruby tells us Bannette generates energy for laying strong curses by sticking pins into its own body. This is a children's game. And you have a doll playing voodoo with itself. Fire Red tells us if it opens its mouth, its cursed energy escapes. I really have a feeling Bannette would get along great with Freddy Fazbear. I don't know where I got that thought. Now, this is a very creepy doll. And I would just say, if you're a kid, steer clear of it. And if you get one, maybe just like stuff it in your closet, but do not throw it away. Just forget that it exists. So guys, thank you for checking out this video. I'm curious to hear what all of you think. There are so many other Pokemon that I could have put inside of this list. If you think there were Pokemon I should have put in this list and I didn't, please let me know. From a Christian perspective, this YouTube channel, I talk about everything from a Christian perspective. Pokemon like this are literally the reason I stopped playing Pokemon. And I've revisited it a couple times, but I really wonder why they have to put this type of material inside of a children's game, talking about souls and creepy materials like that. This is literally the reason I stopped playing it. From a Christian perspective, that's my thoughts on a game like this. It doesn't make sense, but I'm curious to hear what all of you guys think. Make sure to stop by, check out some of the other videos on the channel if you enjoy this, and be sure to include any recommendations if you would like new videos along this topic. Later! No, don't stay a stranger, bro. Do not be a stranger.